We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order of the Finance Committee for Thursday, February 20th, 2020. Lots of twos. I'd like to start with the fact that the next time we meet, Jeff's going to bring along the minutes from some meetings from previous minutes, and at that meeting we'll vote on them, and then we'll go from there. But the reality is that we can't vote on tonight because we didn't put it on the agenda. So I'm sure people are waiting. Anyway, so one of the things we said we were going to do tonight was to review questions people have about the budget. And in a big sense, there's two pieces of effort here. One is as soon as we start getting the articles and the special town meeting articles and so on, we're going to have a lot of paperwork and a lot of discussion and whatnot. We already have some stuff, all right, and I think we have enough to get started on that task. So we have two members who are traveling, so we're down a little bit for what would be good to have. So what I thought we'd do is just how many people brought questions, their questions? John, anybody else? Do any?
Nothing offhand, no. Nothing critical. Nothing critical, no.
Nothing critical. Okay.
I printed out Dale's too. Did you get a copy of Dale's?
I didn't see it when I looked at my web, but
Okay.
it's probably there.
Did you get mine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, that's what we're going to start with you.
Okay.
But you know, we don't have to do everything tonight. But
Yeah.
So did I miss a piece of correspondence?
In the agenda that Jack sent out, in the agenda, one of the items was to bring, or he reminded people to bring questions or send questions to him before in the memo.
Yeah, during last week's meeting.
We talked about it, and then you also sent it out
Yeah, I
in a
sent it
memo
out.
form too.
Right. And it should be, you know, if you got a copy of the agenda, it's in there too. So. Okay, so John, you want to start with?
Okay.
You know, let's just do them one at a time and
Yeah.
go for a while.
But, you know, it really, first, it's a very extensive booklet that was put together by Carol, her department, and others. And you've got to read, I had to read it 3 or 4 times to figure out what the hell was going on. And, but it's a lot of information in there. And as I told people, you can't wait till the movie comes out. You have to read the book first.
Right.
You know, the movie's the town meeting, and it's too late to look for. But anyway,
Yeah.
I probably had 100 questions. A lot of them were little teeny ones, on certain numbers. But I decided to hit the big ones first, and the ones that were in Joe's memo to us and to the selectmen. I think the first biggest one, and it needs more discussion and more understanding, is Joe was thinking of cutting back on the hours or the days of operation at the transfer station, and to eliminate possibly the commercial MSW, municipal solid waste, completely. That's the commercial haulers coming in and dumping their stuff, not town residents. And then I said, well, why don't we just talk about taking it a step further and getting rid of all the C&D, the construction debris also. That I know it brings in lots of money, but it has expenses associated with that. So that was the first question. And we really can't discuss it. We don't have any specific numbers. And,
Right, we gotta wait for numbers.
you know, obviously it's going to affect head count on that issue there. I do not know how many people are associated with that department, but that was something that Joe mentioned a couple times in his memo, that we should be looking at it. He'd like us to look at it, and the selectmen to look at it. So,
Well, there have been at least 3 studies, if not 4, over the last 10 years to ditch it and whatnot, and every time it turned out negative. And there's a reason for that. It's because we know how many people are, we know what the gasoline tank is using, and all that. And so unless they've come up with some new idea, you know, I would be real worried about going forward with it. And it brings a fair amount of money.
But,
Angela?
Yeah, it's more than a fair amount of money.
yeah.
It's a very large sum of money
Yeah.
that
Very
allows to cover a whole bunch of things. That's one thing it does. The other thing it does is it makes dumping garbage for citizens and residents very easy. So there's a benefit to the people, but the real benefit is to the town with the money it brings. I don't understand, because I've seen a couple of times the budget that Leaf is not, Leaf does a very good job with the budgets, which shows a multi-million-dollar income.
What's it?
And it puts the costs next to it.
What's important about this C&D topic is that that's real money coming into the town and to our benefit. And so when you say, what, I wrote down, John, what are the financials on retaining the C&D business versus abandoning it?
Right.
That's the first question. I don't think there's any doubt that this is a wrong-headed move
To eliminate it.
to eliminate it.
Now, see, the thing that I find fascinating is that if you took a look at the money that it brought in, you would find that it's a positive action to keep it. But if you look at other the DPW things, do you think he should pay for cleaning the beach? Do you think he should pay for taking care of the community center? Do you think, how much money is he spending on the cultural center? And what happens in the cultural center? There's no money coming in. So I think people are looking at the wrong thing. I think it's the right idea generally to look at what we're doing, but I think you need two pieces. You need what money is coming in, how important it is to our people. There are a lot of things that don't have to bring in money, but there are a lot of things that we do just because we do.
No, I agree, and I just think that's where Joe has to, he's given us some numbers in here. If you strictly look at these numbers, Link brings in $4.8 million, but his total expenses, including long-term medical care, OPEB, insurance, is $7.9 million. So that operation
Which he had nothing to do with and no control of, you know, but that's why you do this stuff. You gotta look at it.
Because people are retiring, those people leave, but they come back on, they still stay on the town rolls. And that's where we need to look at that. I don't know how many, if it's 5 people involved in that operation or 10. I know Link's total operation is 43 people.
Right.
How much is that associated with MSW and C&D? That's what we're gonna find out. So
The revenue reports that Carol sent us, she's reporting for 2019, the actual revenue for waste disposal was $3.4 million.
yeah.
So I don't know whether that's just fees collected for the disposal of junk, garbage, or I don't think that includes.
We don't dump garbage.
Huh?
We don't dump garbage. We dump waste.
Waste, yes. Yeah, like it's not the dump, it's the,
Transfer station.
or the disposal. What the heck? Yeah, I mean, the traditional name for it is the, what?
The dump.
The dump.
No, it's not the dump.
It was the dump.
It's always the dump.
That was the
Well,
term.
then they shifted it to transfer station. That's the more politically correct term.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't really dump anything there. They transferred it to somewhere else.
They compact it and transfer it.
But that's, I mean, that's probably the major hang-up that I had with the budget, is the whole aspect of closing the dump for 2 days. I mean, I don't,
And that's the other wrong thing.
you know, what do the numbers look like? How much revenue? Are we gonna lose revenue by doing that?
Sure you will.
Well, that's, yeah, that's where we need more numbers on that. But
Absolutely.
I just highlighted it as a number one discussion because that's TA, the town we should respect is, we should go knowing yes or no on that, I think. So we need more work.
And if we're gonna go in there, I think we have to cut right across the entire operations of the dump with recycling. What's that costing? What kind of revenues are being generated there? Is that a loss operation? Is that something that should be discontinued? So there's a great big hole there.
Yeah. And on the recycling, then, I don't know how much of it is mandatory. We have to provide that service for people to get rid of their plastic bottles and tin cans.
It's optional.
Yeah. It's gotta go somewhere, though.
Oh, yeah.
People have got to have an option to bring it somewhere.
And,
I don't,
and I think, what is it, China's no longer accepting?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's going on there.
they basically told the US, you gotta have a clean stream. And that's right for the ideal, clean stream of product. And they can't, it's hard to deliver. So by the time it got to China, they just finally gave up and they said, we don't want any more. No, but I'm sure if they got it from Nigeria, it'd be 10 times worse, but the reality is it didn't work for them.
So that was just a discussion point. I mean, we
Yeah.
definitely clearly need more, but to have that question answered for Joe, whether we support it or not support it.
Why don't we see if we can get our hands on the last, what I think are 3 studies of this from Link.
I'm happy to take point on this and
Wanna go
and
take a
go
look at
after
it?
it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ansel?
Yeah, I think there's a question. I don't think the $70 million is the money that we spend on the transfer station.
That's the total cost of it,
The total cost of just the transfer station?
yeah.
Or is it the DPW?
Well, DPW, yeah.
Okay, so let's
Well, yeah.
understand what's in there. You have all beach cleaning. You have all the mowing of all town properties.
Yeah.
You have 1 to 2 to 3 people in this building, in that building, in every building who does the cleaning out.
Mhm.
I think you're gonna find the dump costs of probably
I mean,
$3 or $4 million.
Highway maintenance. That's a highway maintenance. That's a big ticket
No,
item.
But that rolls under the DPW.
Yeah,
It all ends up going on DPW, all of that, as a one lump budget.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
yeah, see, that's my
Yes.
concern, I think.
Yeah.
And we should look at all those other things, and if there's a need to cut the costs or or, by the way, you could raise fees and cover the beach costs. Not that I particularly would like to do that. But I think you need to look at each piece.
Oh, for sure.
And Link will have the numbers.
Mhm.
I can almost guarantee it that I haven't seen.
John, you're willing to
Sure.
head it up? You'll grab those, see if we can get the history books?
Yeah, Link may have them.
He
If
probably
not,
has
I'll-
them right
I can-
there.
I'll find them somewhere in there.
They're here somewhere,
I'll
I'm
ferret
sure.
it out.
Good.
Good.
Talk to Rick, I think
Yeah.
he's done a study very recently.
My second, want me to run down my
Yeah,
second question?
yeah, and what is it? Go ahead.
The second question is, again, through the town administrator in his letter to the selectmen and to us. He's foregoing, or he's not putting on the town warrant for this year's town meeting, 2 debt exclusions to the tune of $9.9 million. And that's for the DY, this funding the design of DY at $1.5 million, and $7.4 million for the third contract of Phase 2 of East Harwich Sewer. And my question is, are we just delaying the inevitable by 5 months? Because there's a special town meeting that may be held in the fall that is funded in the budget for the town meeting. Just delaying it for 5 months so we don't have the impact of a $10 million debt exclusion on town meeting, but 5 months later, we're asking the town for $10 million. And in 5 months, how much more escalation of construction costs will go up in 5 months? So that, it's it's easy to say delay it, but if you're gonna come back in 5 months and ask for it, I don't think that's a good approach, in my opinion.
I agree.
So again,
Massively agree.
and plus, East Harwich is going through major, as we all, I don't go down there purposely, I don't,
Right.
to the disruption, to finish it up and then have a breathing of a month and then we're right back at it again. It's too much. Get East Harwich all done and then think about the other phases. Is my initial thought on that, but.
And really, just to digress slightly, John, it's the same argument around the highway last town meeting. It's the same argument. Sometimes you can really save money by delaying. Sometimes you just are throwing money down the drain because it doesn't save money. And it's hard to know which is which, and you know, there's so many vested interests out there in the highway systems and engineering companies and consultants that it all gets hidden.
That third one was in Joe's, I really wanted to address Joe's questions. He had two things. He had one chunk called of enhancement of services where he went out to the departments and said, okay, in a perfect world department, what do you need? He came back, that perfect world scenario, I think, was close to $300,000. And so he did not support that, those enhancements to services at all. Do we need to take a look at that? And we look at it and say, well, you know, maybe that extra rec staff for the rec department that it requested is a good thing. And, whereas Joe said no, but do we need to maybe take a look at it and see if it really is no? And then the other 1.4 million was a huge, you went through every line item in people's operating budget and cut out things to the tune of $1.4 million. And I think we should go through them and take a look at them. One of the cuts, which I do not support at all, is eliminating the head to support Foster. I forget Foster's last name, the IT director.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's head is not being, his position's not being filled, the request for position is not being filled. And I think that's a huge vulnerability for the town, to have one man in charge of all the IT for the town. I see that he's down there tonight, Mark, again.
Yeah.
He always is.
So-
He lives there.
And it's mind-boggling to me, so that's one of the positions in there. So, next question is, and it's something I approached the deputy chief on, Dave Lamont, deputy chief, Lamont.
Dave LeBlanc?
The deputy chief, fire chief,
Fire Chief,
Yeah.
Dave LeBlanc.
LeBlanc. I approached him that on the Quint, which I support, I believe I support it so far. The possibility, and I went over to Chadwick and looked at it, I understand what a Quint does and stuff, is have they looked at leasing versus ownership? And he said they've leased it, but they didn't particularly look at it on this occasion. I'd like to see if leasing is a better way to go. I have no idea if it is or not, but I know some departments on the Cape lease their ambulances, lease their fire trucks, and even it said that some of their heavy equipment in DPW works. So, just like to see the numbers of both, of lease versus ownership.
I'm not on either side of this one right now,
Yeah.
but I know at Proctor, we hardly ever leased anything. And just if you couldn't afford to buy it, if you couldn't afford to buy it and you're gonna lease it, it's like, you need to rethink that. We just knew it was wrong.
Well, this Quint is a debt exclusion too, so we all, you know, so it's more than just
Yeah.
buy-in, you're paying for 10 years on this thing.
Can I
Yeah,
interrupt for a second? I think whenever we buy something like that, we should ask the question and run the numbers of whether we should either buy it or lease it or whatever. It only takes 10 minutes to figure that out. And if indeed, you know, the numbers are a certain way, you buy the cheapest way. You know, including you look at the insurance, you look at everything, you know. But I think we can do that automatically.
Yeah, It should be done automatically. And some towns are doing it, some aren't. So it doesn't make anyone better or worse, but it's just a way of doing it. The next question, I did find the number. I was wondering where the 1.5 million payment to Chatham was in the budget.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that it's in one of the big capital debt exclusions we had for wastewater. Because that payment is coming due as soon as one drop of sewage flows to Chatham, that payment becomes due.
Yeah.
I didn't see in the numbers anywhere, maybe someone saw them, a line item for revenues on short-term rentals. I saw the hotel and meals tax line item, but I didn't see the short-term rentals anywhere. And I know that's bringing in money. I guess maybe it's under a different title or something like that.
Angela, you were going to say something?
I thought they said they don't have that number, yes, yet.
Yeah.
That's why it's running.
Well, last year they first tried to budget around the number and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But now they've had 6 months of revenues. They should at least be posting revenues from it. So anyway, I was just curious.
When taxpayers are complaining about taxes, now's the time to prove a revenue source,
Yeah.
because that'll reduce that total load.
And I bet you it's a good chunk of money too. I bet you it's a couple $100,000. I'm just guessing on it.
I'm not seeing anything on the revenue
Yeah.
schedule.
Not labeled short-term.
Unless it's
rentals.
buried someplace, but
Yeah. And then refresh my memory, the last question was, did Link, and I can ask Link when I talk to him, he mentioned something about another position he was looking to possibly create centered around OSHA requirements and documentation and tracking, and I didn't see that anywhere as a position that was going to be implemented, so maybe it wasn't even talked about. But the way Link had talked about it last year, it was needed that, or this coming year, so, because of the heavy requirements
Yeah.
from OSHA. It's just, anyone remember more, I'd be happy to listen.
yeah, I believe he said that the state
Yeah.
promulgated all these additional requirements as part of their administration of OSHA. And he was saying how this was going to be a bear, and he wasn't really sure how he was going to handle it because, his staff is maxed out as it was.
Mhm.
And then talked about getting an additional position, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It would seem to me this would not be the time to be asking for additional staff when they've gone through this exercise of cutting back on.
But also, though, there's regulatory issues that we're not compliant with, though, too. I'd hate to find out what the repercussions of that is. But I can ask Link when I talk to him about the other stuff.
In my previous state,
Yes.
the education department had all these mandates. They called them unfunded mandates. And the school district, say, you're not gonna fund it, we're not gonna do it. So I'm
Somebody
sure
probably lost
Massachusetts
his
has.
leg as a result.
Pardon?
Somebody probably lost his leg as a result.
Well, these are
Early-
education policies.
Yeah, early in my career, I helped the plant up in Quincy install OSHA compliance, and from stem to stern in the plant. And it was a big job, but all the things are unguarded guys and chains, and we had a fatality that year.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Can I ask you a question about the $1.5 million payment to Chatham?
Yeah,
You were asking the question, where is the money?
yeah.
And do we have a problem with collecting revenue from municipalities?
No, we're paying it.
Yeah, we're paying there.
We're paying it. I was just wondering where the line item was. It says we're paying it. But I think there's some big debt articles we passed the last couple town meetings, I think, it's in there. That's the only place I could reasonably think it was. I was thinking Carol or Joe will know where it's at.
Yeah,
But that's
sure.
a big number to
Yeah.
put somewhere. And that's coming quickly. It's coming the fall, and And we have to have a sewer department by the fall. I mean, a real sewer department with people in it, trucks and backhoes and that's not too far away.
No, it's not.
And it can't be the same truck or backhoe that the water department uses. It
Right.
has to be a separate one for obvious reasons. You don't want to be digging sewer one day and then
Right.
fresh water the next. I know they budgeted $350,000 for operations, but, which would probably cover a contractor services. That's what Chatham does, they contract it all out.
You got it for now?
Those are the bulk of the questions, yeah.
Most of the
Right.
questions.
The other ones were a little
I know
key.
you better.
but,
So I'll go next since I've got my paper here. I really have been talking for, what, 15 years, 12 years, Angelo, back to Operations Review Task Force. Been talking about raising fees and raising fees and raising fees. And the bottom line is, of course, nobody wants to raise fees. But if you stop and think about it, the people that are going to be paying the fees are not Harwich taxpayers. So, you know, we don't need to argue about citizens paying fees, because they don't.
They buy beach stickers, they want, right?
Yeah, I'll raise them. If they like to go to the beach, raise them.
They
If
want
you raise them
pickleball
$5,
fees.
raise them $15.
Yeah.
They're on vacation. They're not gonna worry about $15. And that, they go a little bit further, you know, I think that, we have a practice of doing a study on fees, what other towns are paying for fees,
Yeah.
so forth, and it's like, I don't care what others charge, I wanna get every penny out of what we can get, truthfully, and,
Yeah.
you know, I know there's no big driving force for fixed costs, recovering fixed costs, but we at least ought to recover our fixed costs on whatever it is that's being studied, okay? And that's, again, it's a similar thing, it's a chance to recover those costs and get a better deal for a while. And so, do you have any remembrance of how much the rec department budget has gone up in the last 10 or 15 years?
No,
You know, when you were there, did you,
I'm
when you,
sorry.
when you were in selectmen's job?
I can't remember that number. It's a few years ago.
Well,
But I can tell you, I don't think it matters what the hell that number says, because it's not the right number.
Right.
That's what the problem is. The budget numbers aren't the right numbers. We need to have a budget that has the correct numbers. And we'll pick on conservation or
Right.
the rec department for a second. They collect money to have people come to the beach. They have to take care of the beach. They have to take care of the houses and whatever. You know where that budget is carried? It's carried by the DPW. It's not carried by them.
That's part of that.
So if they sat down to try and cover their costs, they would cover what's in their cost list, but it has nothing to do with reality. And that's what the problem is. I've been after for the 12 years.
I don't think that's literally true, Angela. They are spending a lot of money, direct money. So it's a big number on both sides, I think.
But to
I'm
Angela's
just saying
point,
that,
yeah.
I'm saying if I were running the recreation department, I wouldn't know what the total costs are that I have to deal with. So how can I do a good job of setting the budget thing? I'd have to chase around and find out what the numbers are. They just don't appear. And there are a lot of other departments and parts of it that don't appear either. That's why I think you need to have, and I know the town's capable of doing it because we did it. And I was a selectman, and it was very good. Incidentally, up until recently, the golf department in waterways, and I think piece of budgets that they could use and understand what they're dealing with. So they can understand
Well,
what they should say.
I think history would tell us that nobody's interested in that right now. We gotta start somewhere. Okay? I mean, have you talked with Carol about this? Have you talked to Carol Coppola about
Yeah,
that?
I've asked her.
So,
to do the
is she
same.
interested to work
Yeah,
on it?
Yes, they are, but we just don't have it.
Of true costs to run a department, is that what you're looking
Yeah.
for? I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying let's going crazy and having to charge other departments for things, but there's so many things that are actually very simple to find. They're one department's doing something for another. You know, all these town buildings are being cleaned by people who get charged to run them,
Great.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He didn't make the mess.
Yeah, he didn't make the mess, and he would be happy to probably take the people out, you know? But it's just people have to do it.
You know, I think it's a little bit like the water department, which is an enterprise fund. The town charges the water department $72,000 for doing services for them.
Yeah.
And so that's to your example. So now, when Dan budgets, he budgets that $72,000, and it's spelled out in his budget. It's for town services. So I think to your point, you're looking for a rec department. You know, what is the true cost for a rec department to run their numbers? Custodial wise, other services that they draw on have services.
This is, you know, frankly, this is the only way to do this. So Angela and I both have experience with you know, fixed costs and variable costs and all that, and covering your costs. You got to cover your costs. I don't know if your company did your job, they did that or not.
Oh, we used
All the
to
costs were allocated out.
allocate, sure, absolutely.
You didn't leave one penny on the floor.
Yeah, in fact, the New York State Division of the Budget, they established, what do they call it? An indirect cost percentage,
Yeah.
that they would charge the department for the services of
Mhm.
the executive branch. Yeah, but we don't do chargebacks on indirect costs, right?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
and that's a hard thing to do, but I'm not even talking about.
I understand that.
Cost.
Yeah. You know what I'm not seeing in this revenue report is, there's something called recreation and youth revenue, but I'm not seeing any, unless the number is buried in there, I'm not seeing anything in terms of beach sticker fees.
Well, that comes under,
That's what
uh,
The charges for services, 411,000.
yeah.
The what?
There's a line item for sources of funding for the rec department, and it's called
Page 38.
charges for services. And that's the beach stickers, that's the fees that they charge in all the programs.
What page are you on?
This is 38. So that's where the rec department gets a huge chunk of their operating capital or operating budget is from those charges for services.
About 80%.
Yeah.
They also have ones that they just keep on going back and forth, it's covering the same cost. Money comes in, goes right back out.
It's handy to have somebody else cover your costs.
Yeah, it's the fourth line down,
Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, I see it, yeah. Charges.
Because that charge for services in the big revenue sheet you have there, I think it's close to $12 million. That's what all the planning board, the building inspector, everybody, that's where all the fees come into that line item under revenues coming in, it's charges for services. So what Carol's done this year is showing where the funding for each department's coming from.
I'm not seeing any kind of revenue item called charges for services
For where?
on this revenue report. This is the
Yeah, I'm
semi-annual.
looking at the but there is somewhere, it's under the revenue sheet, where that is. 165 pages, it's hard to.
Use and rec.
What are you trying to find?
Where the money-
Trying to find the total for charges for services.
For recreation?
No, for all of, there's a line item somewhere in the revenue sheet.
Oh, for the entire town?
Yeah. General fund. Yeah, it's under general fund revenue survey, it's labeled there as total other resources. Fees, licenses, permits, or there it is, charges for services. Page 2.
2?
7.4 million?
8.2 million. Oh, excuse me, that's fiscal 9, yeah. 7.4, yeah, exactly, Mark, yeah. Page 2.
About halfway down
Yeah.
the chart.
Charges for services, $8.2 million.
Well, that's fiscal 2019. Go over to the budgeted,
Yeah.
which is,
Column 3.
that was one of my questions, is why is that
7.49.
down $700,000?
Yeah,
That's, so that charges, and then Carol takes money out of that and dispenses it each department as a funding source.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? I know in some of the things we do, we charge less money for citizens, residents who pay taxes. Is that true of, say, the recreation department?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, is it true for, I'm not talking about the beach things, I'm talking about for the programs they have for children?
It's very nominal as far as I see, like, if a resident is $20, a non-resident is $25. It's a small increment, but yes, they charge a little bit more.
No, and how much is the charge to take care of the kid?
That's another huge question. Yeah.
All right?
Does it cost $30?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and I think that's the answer you need to get.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's only $20 or $25 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
no big deal. But if it's $30, you're better off charging zero.
Well, but the counter argument to that good one is the library. They don't charge anything, but their budget is $2 million, so. They can charge $2 million, they're not gonna start charging people to rent a book, you know, so, I mean, I see both sides, yeah.
Free library.
Free library. Those kind of things were started by Benjamin Franklin,
That's,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
that's the rule.
that's the rule. Yeah, maybe we should have free rec.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
got a couple other ones. I'm not sure there is anybody who's looked at this, but the concept of speed and doing things quickly with having a good process and so on, it just struck me that I wonder what the financial impact would be if we made wastewater deals, those type of deals, for other things, with our surrounding towns on fastest timing, near term and long term. You're trying to, I want to set some records in a way to say, if faster I get this done, sooner I get my money. The better from a town point of view, the faster we get it done, we don't get more money, we spend less money, and they get a little more money because they put all their money into that pot. So, it strikes me there's been so much technology and management in the last 25 or 30 years around fast time to market and on and on and on. We do so many projects during a year And, you know, there is a whole stack of technology books that tell you, here's the best way to do that. And I don't know if we pay attention to that or not yet.
You mean kind of like incentivizing contractors
It-
to
it-
do
it's,
the job quicker?
Yeah, it's incentivizes is exactly one of the two things. You see the bridges that get erected overnight,
Oh, yeah.
over a weekend, excuse me,
Mhm.
and, you know, they make money, we make money because we're up and using that thing right away.
Mhm.
You know, it's a good deal. But that kind of thinking, back to the Ops Review Task Force, Angelo, and the modern management methods that we talked about. Another one, which we've touched on it, but it's, you know, what would the financial impact be if we halted all recycling?
Yeah.
And, you know, I envision there'd be a lot of fines, but that's a different issue.
Mhm.
You know, the reality is, we gotta send it somewhere, so it's gonna cost us money. And if we really, and I'm not even talking any other value set, I'm just saying it would cost money. And here we are trying to reduce costs. We can't be doing things that go against what we're trying to accomplish. Right?
I'll ask Link, he'll know, I'm sure. Yeah. 'Cause I don't know, again, I don't know what's mandated by state that we have to do. Otherwise, if they can't dump it at the dump, they're gonna be dumping it out their windows.
Yeah,
So-
and
Revenue's
Cape's got
on page
a,
68.
Cape has got a lot of stuff going out the windows, I'll tell you, driving down the highway. But, you know, what if can we quickly find a way to study the financial impact if we halted all the recycling? It's at least worth a look.
I think that's what I was suggesting earlier.
Yeah.
We should just look at particular kinds of waste to do away with.
Right.
Look at the dump right across the board.
Yeah.
Recycling paper, glass, I don't know what that costs.
What, it really doesn't cost, it looks like we make money on that.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
it.
Not much.
That's the revenue, not the expense.
Right, yeah.
Do we?
Not much, but we
We make
not mu-
16,000 on glass.
yeah.
How much?
Newspaper and plastic, you don't get.
So it looks like about $100,000 on, you know, on metal, glass, other, and newspapers.
When we vote for that, how many people from town are gonna show up?
Oh,
We have a garage full of bottles, glass, and everything else, what are they gonna do with it? And it's gonna end up in the woods like it used to.
Yes.
Or Bell's Neck. Yeah.
And if it winds up being municipal waste, then we have to pay to cart it.
Yeah.
Or it's gonna
So-
end up in the trash cans at the beaches.
Yes.
Yeah, so
And
I
nips.
think it's,
The little nips. Little,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, they're on the street.
They're everywhere. They're
Yeah.
awful.
I think that's a problem.
Well, the state talked about instituting a nickel deposit on the NIPS. I don't know, that kind of died.
That's not gonna stop. The only thing to do might incentivize
It's not gonna-
kids to pick it up, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna stop anyone who's drinking them.
No, oh, no way, no.
Or throwing them out the window.
You could put a quarter
Right.
deposit,
Yeah,
and
right.
they'll still buy
Right.
it.
Might do it.
I'd start picking them up in the pot.
If it would go to a quarter, I would do it.
Get you a water too.
I also had one here, was on a different kind of thing. It's more of a money revenue from the herring runs. How can we financially benefit from having the herring runs? And get people interested in those runs, now how cool it is. You could call it Mickey Mouse herring, you know, give a little character and have a little fun with it.
For every 100 you count,
You gotta be creative, Dan.
Yeah.
You gotta be
Think outside the box.
We had the most herring than any Cape Town this past year. As a town, so well over 1 million.
A lot of that herring run is run by volunteers.
Right.
Right.
And electronics.
You know, The great white sharks was an example of how something can get the people interested, and and to the point where they're out there in the water, up to their waist with sharks everywhere. But it gives you the thought that you could make money out of selling T-shirts.
Yep.
The great herring T-shirt run.
Mm-hmm.
Have people jumping in the water in the wintertime, the whole bit. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out, there were a number of recommendations for increasing staffing. Nearly all of them got shot down, which makes some sense when you're trying to cut costs. But were there not one or two of all those that made sense?
Well, that's what the enhancement of services, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, where do you think we ought to go? We have two responsibilities. One is to manage the towns, keep the costs under control and all that. The other is making sure the right places are being increased or decreased. And when you're in a situation like this where you're trying to cut costs dramatically, it can really take over. The cutting cost mantra can really take over, and it becomes 100% kind of a thing. And you can make a lot of mistakes in 100% cuts.
Well, I think we could, March 7th, that's a good opportunity to ask Eric. You asked for a staff member, it was declined.
Yeah.
Why did you ask for it? And what's your position?
Mm-hmm.
So, so I don't know. That was the major one I saw, was the staff one.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard Robin Kelly, the cemetery commissioner, was asking for a part-time position, which was, we could ask her why she needed that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Off the Foster's program, position was cut. DPW shows a cut too.
Yeah.
They are adding, I think, someone into the cultural center.
They added someone. Well, it wasn't, they didn't add.
No, they have.
They had this backfilling position that was there.
They're planning on doing that.
They did already. Sandy Robinson, that position.
Ask a few more questions?
That's
Not right now.
that's all I have.
Okay.
Like I said, I had a bunch of little ones, but we don't have enough time to go through all of those. But those are the major ones. I mean, big dollar ones. Other ones were just where are the numbers in the pages here, trying to reconcile something. One big question I had too was on one page, I saw we had 190 full-time employees in town. And another page, I saw we had 220 full-time employees in town. Which number is true? So that was a question. That's a big difference, 30 employees.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if those are, because they say full-time equivalent, I don't know if they count up 10 part-time people.
Part-timers.
And that equals 3 full-time people. But the question is, if those are 30 part-timers, they obviously aren't getting benefits, medical or insurance, dental, and then retirement benefits. But I get to reconcile the two numbers.
Yeah.
And it looks like headcount has stayed steady for the last 3 years at least, around 190. So,
Looks like.
and the population has stayed steady around there too.
There was a chart that she had in here that shows the 10-year revenue and the 10-year taxes and
Yeah.
things like that. And the increases, but for the wastewater system, the increases are quite reasonable. You know, yeah, once in a while you gotta buy a truck, once in a while you gotta buy a diesel, something, but, you know, the wastewater thing is what's really hurting.
That and the little big hits, if that's an oxymoron, a new school, you know, a new harbor, a new
Yeah.
fire station.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
so,
and, you know, the reality is every one of them ought to increase Harwich's attractiveness
Yep.
to parents and children and grandparents and tourists from Nevada and things like that, you know.
Just a comment. I'm not sure that we have a major change in population, but I think we have a major change of how many people are here during the winter these days. I think it's down.
Upside, on the upside or downside?
Down. And I know in a couple of places, like where I live, there are only 5 houses out of 65
Oh,
that are, and that's down substantially from last year and the year before and the year before that. To a point where a lot of restaurants are closing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More than one.
slow year right, this one.
And those, obviously, people have jobs and whatnot, so that's a negative impact. And there's also taxes that are imposed with it, so, I think, I don't think our population is staying as high as you think. And I think they come back, and you're here for a couple of months, but they used to stay here all the time, you know. I think that's a problem.
It's been very,
well, it could be looked at as a good problem too. They're not drawing in any services while they're away, you know, so. And they're still paying full taxes, so. That's, in a way, that's the saving grace of a town our size is, I think it's what, almost 60% of the town is not here.
right,
With rental income, I mean, second homes.
yeah.
So, otherwise the schools would be much higher if that was happening.
Okay. Anything from you
Nope.
at this point?
Nope.
Angelo, another one? No?
I would just love to see the selectmen have each department check what rates they charge on anything, to make sure that they're logical and sound and are in line with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't. You know, I mean, we have a department that tried to raise its rates because it realized it was like 20% of what everybody was doing, and so let them go to 40%, 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that?
Has the town ever done a comparison to what other towns
They do it
charge
all the
for?
time.
All
They
the
do?
time.
Yeah.
Really as much as.
And if you think,
I don't think that matters. See, I don't think it matters that we charge what other people charge. I think we need to charge what covers our costs.
exactly, yeah.
It's a different number.
And
I don't know how he handles someone, the community center has a number of dinners and lunches and breakfasts, which is a wonderful activity. Do they take any time to understand if the people who are there who aren't paying don't have to pay? Because I know there are a lot of people that go, that should be paying, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not for them, but, do they check that out? I don't think so.
I don't know. Not sure. We'll find out.
I know that, like, the Council on Aging, they're doing that, the best, they have these little key fobs that they encourage people to sign in at the station. There's 4 or 5 different services there. You sign in with your key fob, and then you push what button, what services you're gonna use. so they can statistically say that so many people come for the afternoon lunch, so many people come for this men's breakfast every month. So they're trying to get numbers on that.
Good.
Yeah.
You get something like 80 guys in there for the men's breakfast
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, that's because there's bacon involved.
There's a lot of bacon and sausage, that's right.
Bacon and sausage.
Yeah, yeah, really.
Maybe that's the key to running the town, you know.
It could be.
We serve bacon every meeting.
You know, we had one of the breakfasts, they always have a speaker or something, a show. They had antique car discussion. You know, old Studebakers and old Fords and whatever. It was the most people they'd ever had. So, you know, ladies in the office, it's like, if you know how to get more guys, have some cars. You know? Pretty good. I think when you look at the year, the tornado was a just miss, and when it comes to financial side of it, you know, we managed to get reimbursed totally, and could have been different, could have been much worse. And the other thing I think is that this sudden drop in recycle and waste management and all that was like clearly was not something that we planned for a year ago or 2 years ago. That was a surprise on the downside. Continue to have a good running fire department, police department, DPW, all library even. All of these things are really doing very well, serving the citizenry. And I don't think we really want to see that get to be a problem. If the money is the issue, we're going to have to figure out the answer. Right now, it's not any big issue.
Just triggered something in my mind, something that I mentioned when Chris Clark was town administrator. The fact that budgets, whatever reports the town produces, talks about money, how much has been spent, whether the town is in good financial position or what have you. But except for, I think, the annual report, there's no presentation of performance results. How many fires did the fire department respond to? Because people will say, so what am I getting for my money? You know? And I don't know, I think it would be nice if there were a couple of tables in here that talked about performance results with fire, police, recreation, all those departments that are serving the populace.
There is something to that effect in here.
There is?
Yeah, under statistical section, towards the back. It starts on page
Yeah, I saw the statistical section.
111, and it tells you how many, fires that the fire department went to, how many were fires, how many were medical, the police, what were arrests, what were protective custody, what were speeding tickets. We don't issue a lot of speeding tickets in this town.
No, they don't.
So,
That's good.
That's good.
Well, it's just a statement, that's all.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on page, this is 126.
oh,
The fire department, total incidents, burials, recreation programs added, participants. So there's some there, Dan. It's not
yeah, I
a
totally
whole
missed
lot,
that.
but there is some.
There's so much information in here.
Oh, yeah, you gotta read it 3-4 times to really see it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's,
yeah, well, I mean, it's, you better read the book. It's,
See, I think there are big differences between the police department, the fire department,
this is good.
and some other departments. We need those. You need water, you need certain things.
This should probably be something that Joe might want to promote in terms of having the people look at these kinds of data to get some sense of what they're getting for their money.
Well, that's, to that point, Jack, how can we do a better job of educating the public, you know? Everybody I talk to, I say, come to our meetings, send us questions, and, you know, that's the real key is, I know they're, what's that group of women that do they promote
League of
voter
Women
voter registration or voter?
League of
Voter information.
Voter information, they
Oh.
have weekly topics, but I don't know who attends those. It's just, we've got to go to town meeting with education as the forefront, instead of people getting up at town meeting saying, no, it's too late then. We saw that last year. And, I think if people understand it, I know there's a group out there called Concerned Taxpayer Harwich that's formed, and they meet regularly, and are looking at this very closely now. You know, maybe we have them come in and talk, have them talk. I bet they would be more than willing to come in and tell us what they think we should be working on. I don't know if we want to do that or not. I think it's a good idea.
Has the Finance Committee ever conducted a public hearing on the town budget?
Well, wouldn't this be it right here?
Pardon me?
Wouldn't this be that forum for that?
Well, I think you need much larger room. If you send out a,
Oh, I see what you mean.
you know, post something on the
Chronicle.
Chronicle that the Finance Committee is going to be conducting a public hearing on the town budget and town operations, and give people an opportunity to come in and talk for 5 minutes about what their concerns are,
Yeah,
and just listen.
I think that's a good idea.
Angela?
I think that's a fine idea, except you have to start in a different place. You have to tell them what the budget really means. Because as I said before, the numbers aren't right. So we
Well-
gotta figure out to get them the correct numbers.
This is more so getting, I understand that, but this is more so getting their perception of what the town operations are all about, and the town budget. Not necessarily their comprehension of what's in there, just what's their gut reaction, what are their observations?
Your observations is the taxes are too high. Right?
But if they read this
That's
book,
what it is.
if they read this book, they'll understand it. Whether or not, if they choose to, they'll understand it. If they don't choose to, then they really can't say no.
Well, you could set up some rules also, that,
I think it would be very helpful if we, in the little booklet that goes to town meeting, gets the data in there correct, one, and two, adds the stuff that you want to add to it, so that at town meeting, if somebody asks a question, you can say, go to page 12. And because that's where the people are going to be. You're not going to get a big pile of people. Just not.
But at least we're attempting to.
I'm not sure about that.
No. It may be 1 year.
If you go on, I don't know if you're on Facebook, but there's a group called the Old Timers, Harwich Old Timers.
They know everything.
Every day there's something in there about town and what's going on, and I don't know where they get their, but they are really spot on in terms of knowing what's going on and who's getting appointed and that kind of thing.
I think it's a good attempt at education. At least we tried. You know,
Yeah.
if no one shows up, no one shows
Oh, I
up.
think people will show
I
up.
think they would too.
Oh, no, I think people will show up.
Because that town meeting is too late. They can't walk into town meeting
Oh, no.
and see a booklet,
Yeah.
they're never gonna read it. Otherwise, in town meeting, well, instead of 1 or 2 nights, it'll be 4 nights. Because you'll be referencing page after page after page, you have to read it. It's gotta start
That-
now, at least now, or 2 months ago. And this is a good start. You know, maybe we work next year with Carol and get this condensed down to 10 pages or 20 pages.
And I mean, it depends on how you want to structure the public hearing. If you structure it so that, you know, give us your thoughts, comments, and also come prepared to make proposals.
We really can't do that until after March 7th.
Pardon me?
We can't do that kind of activity until after March 7th.
I'm thinking next year. I'm thinking like, I don't know, October, something like that.
Because after March 7th is the time that we meet with all departments.
Right, yeah,
And understand what their issues are.
Right.
And then we get the numbers that are the real numbers, because these aren't the real numbers, they're gonna change.
Yeah, Angela, with all respect, we don't have any data, we don't have any audits, we don't have any AAA examinations to indicate that anything is anything other than correct. We don't have anything that says it's incorrect. So I wouldn't, you know,
I'm
Yeah,
not
we-
saying that is incorrect. I am saying that by March 7th, that's when the selectmen say that it is correct. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Because they can change it.
my comments stand. I mean, we've been audited by Standard & Poor's and got our AAA rating and everything is great and good job, on and on and on. What we have is people don't like the spending and we gotta deal with that to some extent that we can.
I see your point, Ken,
Yeah.
These are good, they're not bad numbers, they're good numbers.
It's important that we all understand that our books are good, they've been carefully vetted, audited, and if they need to be adjusted because we found something, we will. I know we will, especially with Carol in that job.
Do we ever get a copy of the, or maybe it's in the annual report, the management discussion and analysis that goes with this
Yeah,
statement?
You can get it, Carol will get it for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall if it's in the annual report has the certified financial statements in there, but I'm not sure about the,
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this deck right here. It's not the final deck that will be presented.
I understand that, yeah.
And if it's not the final deck that's be presented, it's very hard to tell people, yeah, that's the number. So you wait until the 7th, when the selectmen should say that it is, and at least I'm not saying that the numbers are wrong. I'm saying that they haven't been accepted yet. That's what the problem is.
I'm not following you. I mean, you're saying that those numbers are not accurate until the Board of Selectmen adopts it as part of a town warrant?
The Board of Selectmen have not, I wouldn't be surprised if the selectmen would decide, yes, we'll hire those people over here, and no, we won't buy this truck. They do that. That happens. It's their right to do it.
They're right, but then the town meeting is the ultimate decision.
I mean, once the budget passes at town meeting, it's
Yeah,
that's right.
it's solid, it's
Yeah.
hard, it's
That's
cast in
right.
iron,
Correct.
cast in
That's not
concrete.
the budget.
And then we get audited.
Huh?
And then we get audited by the state.
Yeah.
It's a good attempt at the budget, though, I see.
Yeah, I think it's a terrific idea. I would like to see it go through, this is the budget, but
I mean, how, are there gonna be material changes to it?
it can be.
It could be, yeah.
There could be, yeah, but what has history told us? Does it change that much?
There are changes every year in this deck, and that deck.
Does it change by $10 million?
No.
No.
Well, the only one that could be $10 million
Yeah.
if someone says, you know, and we want to put that debt exclusion on, and that is a $10 million.
And that's disclosed.
This goes back to, yeah.
So I'm,
It also
I'm
goes
not
back to,
following you.
It's shifting a bit, but this is a
you've also got to go back to, these are municipal accounting being different than business accounting.
Yeah.
And we're making adjustments, just like we did in business, we're making adjustments right to the last moment, because we found things or needed to change some reason for what's there. It's.
But this is their best
We have
guess
money at the-
estimate as to what the budget's
That's a
gonna look
fact.
like,
Yeah.
right?
That's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have money in the budget set up for reserves when if mistakes are found, or if errors are made, or if they had a tornado in July. We've got some chunk of money to deal with
reserve.
those kind of realities.
Contingency fund, yeah.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say is, right after that March 7th meeting, we'll have a much better idea of where the selectmen are.
Yes.
And then you can schedule a meeting that you want, and type of meeting you want in public, and have at least a much better chance of dealing with the real.
Yeah, my thinking of a
what you need.
public hearing is, this would be well into the next fiscal year.
The
And
public meeting,
a public-
probably.
Yep.
But I think we can maybe just do it on a trial basis, bring in this concerned taxpayers of association, ask if they'd like to come in and see what their concerns are, instead of them getting up at town meeting saying, this is what we want, at least we'll agree to agree on, or disagree, at least we'll know what they're gonna be saying. And they're more than willing to.
Oh, yeah.
They're speaking to, department heads are going to speak to them, so it's a smallish group. Some of them are former elected officials of town, and some are just, the folks we'll usually see on town floor get up to the mic and speak, or write a letter to the editor, or active on Harwich Old Timers, which I'm not active on that, so I know,
No,
I know
I'm
they're
not.
a part of it.
No, I know they're there, but I'm not part of that group.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going there.
But that Old Timers, it's another data point of information.
Yeah.
Whether it's correct or not correct. I know the woman who runs that is very well informed in town going, I think she's
Yep.
a former selectman, isn't she? A woman? Selectman.
Is she?
Yeah.
Bayless?
Sandra Day Hall, or, Sandra,
Bayless?
No,
Sandy Hall, Hall, yeah.
Oh, okay, I was thinking, yeah, there's another gal who's active in
Yeah.
that.
See there, you just hit the nail on the head here. The difference between us and these other groups is we are formally chartered
Sure.
to work for the town, to make recommendations and to manage the reserve fund. That's our job. It's an official job,
Yeah.
except there's no money for us. And we have the obligation to report to town meeting, at least once a year, annual town meeting, and then if there's a special, we'll do that. But those are unique responsibilities,
Yeah.
and that's why they're different, and why we've got to make sure that we have our act together, and make sure we've got a good understanding of our articles and the ins and the outs.
I think it'd be good, we bring in the people that are proposing warrant articles, we have them come in and
Petition
talk to us.
articles, yeah.
So this old timer, not so much the old timers, I mean the concerned citizens and taxpayers. I mean, I think they're focused in on a lot on wastewater management, is their main focus, which is a big focus.
Hmm.
Good luck. Maybe they could get the state and judges to force us to do
Well,
it.
that's,
You know?
when I asked that question, has anyone talked to the Conservation Law? No one's talked to the Conservation Law.
That's not-
They're afraid they're gonna get sued, but no one's
There's a
brought him in as a partner in this thing. It just floors me that we haven't.
We have a couple of operations in this town, commercial operations. We've been fighting for years with them.
Yeah.
Spending the money and whatnot, continually losing and getting difficult problems. they're not gonna stop.
Witchmere won though, they won their case. Unless the conservation law appeals it, but, Witchmere Harbor, they don't have to do what they wanted to do.
They did the part of it.
Yeah. Whereas from Fawcett, they rolled over and said, what do you
Well,
want?
Witchmere has, we still have problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
still a
Yeah.
problem, it's not solved.
Say we call it a day,
Well,
okay?
Well, I think that we should think about getting together with whoever wants to come in. I think you'd be very surprised that not that many people show up. And you could probably sit down and write the questions that you're gonna hear. Because the questions have been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
well, I think,
And the first time you hold something like that, I mean, the response could either be fantastic, or, like you said, Angelo, nobody's interested to come in and talk.
we never know till we ask.
Exactly. I mean,
I'm happy to ask them, Jack, if you want.
No, I'll ask him, if it's gonna get asked, it could come from the chairman,
Yeah.
that's the best way to do
No,
it.
I think it's a,
Well, I wouldn't limit it to anybody, I would have it anybody who wants to do it.
yeah,
Nick?
yeah.
I mean, I think-
oh, yeah, yeah. I just don't wanna go to town meeting, as people say, that's the first time I've heard of it. It's
Now,
not,
the other thing that's important, John, is that we've gotta get the selectmen to think of this as, we need some PR for the articles. We need some PR for the spending. They've gotta stand up and say, this is our budget, and we're behind it. Okay, because you saw what can happen, is that somebody just gets up and they've got a point of view, and the next thing you know, the selectmen are back sitting down in their chair.
yeah.
You know, all the.
I'd love to go to the town meeting and concerned taxpayers in Harwich get up and say, we've worked with the finance committee for the last 2 months on this, and this is what we've agreed to, or not agreed to, at least we know going in what we're up against.
Yeah.
another thing that kind of a public hearing would do is to give the finance committee some exposure.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some members,
Yeah.
candidates.
Or get shot.
I had coffee with Mike last week, at the end of last week, and he had a couple prospective candidates, and they would call me by the end of the week, which is tomorrow.
Good.
I'm waiting, we'll see what happens.
Don't hold your breath.
Well, gotta keep plugging.
Yeah. Okay, let's call it a day.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
But I'd like to make
Which-
a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
Jack, I just want to mention to you, that meeting on the 7th,